What up, y'all? We back. Season 2, Creative Questions, Episode 1. My guest today is Leila Thompson, who is a full-time artist in her punch needle rug era. Leila is so talented. I heard the term the other day, multi-passionate creative, and it fits her so well. She just knows a little bit of everything. In this episode, we talk about the cat that gave birth on her front porch. We talk about her work in ecosystem science and policy. And we talk about her mom not letting her have light up shoes as a kid. Buckle in. It's a fun episode. Here's Leila Thompson. Yes. All right. I just find it wild because I was like, because you were just on the Why Do podcast, right? Like...
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's the other one. That's the only other one.
That's it. I just find it so wild because you definitely have like the podcast personality. Like, hate to say it, but there's a personality sometimes that you're like,
okay,
if I don't get the right person here, I might be here like struggling for an hour. Which is rough
I
to
can
say
talk.
sometimes.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I can talk. So
yeah. And so you're on this. So this will be your second one with me. The first one.
Yes.
Was on my, I tell people all the time, like, this is the third iteration of a podcast for me. The first
third time's
one,
the charm.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it's working. I don't know.
Yeah.
The first one was, what was it? Wisdom by Design. And that's the one you were on. But I feel like we had such a good time, and I was just like, yeah, I would love to do that again. Let's do that on this version. But yeah, I think having more podcast friends is like, it could be good, but it also could be bad.
Yeah. That's why maybe I've only been on 3.
Yeah. You'll get more.
Yeah.
Or I'll ask you more times. I'll come up with more iterations.
I'll just be once a year a regular guest.
Let's do it. I have no problem with that. So what are you up to? This is usually how I start it. What do you got going on right now? Just in life. Like how's life treating you?
Well, since I last messaged you, my life has been kittens.
That's wild.
So that's pretty much my past week. Literally, it feels like it's gone by so fast, but I've done pretty much nothing else. I've been like able to get orders out and stuff like here and there, but I'm just like, yeah, kittens.
That's so, yeah. So the backstory on that is I think I messaged you and was like, are we still good to go? And you're like, oh no, you messaged me. You're like, can we move the date?
I was calling my mom and I was like, Mom, I think I need to call out. And she's like, of what? And I was like, I have a call in an hour and this cat is like giving birth and I think I need to let him know I cannot do this. She's like, oh yeah, definitely tell him. So I was like, okay. I was like, oh my gosh, Cameron. And I spelled your name wrong. I'm sorry. But Cameron, this is really random and it's not like, I'm not making this up, but like I cannot come on today because there's a cat that's giving birth on my porch.
Yes. Which is the perfect.
Yeah.
Even if it was a lie, there's no way I would be like, no,
prove it.
Yeah, where's the picture? I just was like,
I have videos.
This is the wildest thing, but I feel like I have to believe that it's true, because who would make that up? But yeah. So how many kittens are you dealing with?
There are 3, which I feel like is a good number.
Yeah.
It's like not too many. It's not too little, so they can keep each other company. But
nice.
Yeah, there's 3. Yeah.
3 kittens.
So.
Are you going to keep them or are you going to like take them to a shelter? What are you going to do with them?
I've been learning a lot about kittens in the past week. So I have my cat here, Milo.
Okay.
And he's like 12. So I always joke and say I need to get his replacement started so they can like know each other and he can like let them know how it is.
Yeah.
And I've been joking about that for like months. And then this mom shows up and is like having kittens and I'm like, well, here's my kitten. And my brother also loves cats and he's like, can I have one? And I was like, okay. So
nice.
I might end up with 2 extra cats, but yeah, I want them. I like cats. We're a cat family. I'm like in my crazy cat era. Hopefully it ends soon because I do not want to do this. I was like, Mom, this is the only time I will do this because this is stressful and this is the only time I will deal with newborn kittens, and then I will
yeah.
be done. This is the one time in my life. So
That's so
I'm just
funny.
trying to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just make sure they are healthy and,
Makes
taken
sense.
care of. So
It's ready. It's best for it to be pushed upon you instead of you having to make the decision. You're like, I hate the decision I just made. So
right, yeah, it's like, well, I'm here now, so I got to make the best of it. And like I didn't prepare. Like I didn't know. I didn't know anything about kittens. They can't eat. They on their own. Their mom needs to feed them. They can't see. They can't hear. They can't even go to the bathroom on their own for like 3 weeks or more. They need to be stimulated, or their mom has to clean them to go to the bathroom. Like they need everything done for them. And that's why, like, if you find newborn kittens, you shouldn't take them to a shelter because they don't often have, like, the people and the manpower to, like, do everything that's needed for kittens.
wow.
So I
did
got
not
really
know
lucky that mom was here because she's doing all the work. I just have to make sure she's okay. But, like, if anybody is watching this and they find kittens, try to keep them with their mom because she literally does all the work for you. But yeah, I didn't know any of this, and I'm like literally watching YouTube videos as she's giving birth to see what should be happening and what I should be doing. So it's literally every day it's like, okay, what should be happening today? Okay, on day 8 they start opening their eyes and like all this stuff. So
What? I did
that's
not
been
know
my week.
that.
It's been my week. I know, and I feel like most people don't know this, and I feel like, yeah, I definitely will talk about it, but I wanted to make sure the kittens don't, they make it.
Yeah, they don't go
through.
any. Yeah. We can't have.
I want to make sure that they're sticking around before I give them names and like show people how cute they are because I don't want people to get attached. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot that I've learned about kittens, and I definitely am glad that I have them because if not, like we had a few freezing temperature nights, we had a bunch of rain,
sure.
like she would have been outside, And last year she gave birth to kittens outside next door. Both my house and the house next door didn't have people living in it. And she gave birth to kittens, and there are 2 of them that they're fine, they're good. The neighbors that moved in sort of like adopted them a bit, so
Got you.
I was like, this is my chance.
So this is just a neighborhood
chance.
cat, just out here living life.
Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, she definitely is a wild child. She does her own thing,
Nice.
And she has like a very unique look to her. So everyone that feeds cats, I'm sure, is like in love with her and gives her all the food she wants. Yeah. But I was never like feeding her. I was like, no, you get food from everybody else. You do not need food from me. Like you can go ask everybody else. You're fine. And so
That's
awesome.
awesome.
So she literally just walked into my house on her own and started having kittens. And I was like,
This is it. Hook it
I
up.
need to
Hook it up right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
I was like, Milo, your replacement. He's here. He just got airdropped to our front porch.
Airdropped is so funny.
Yeah.
That's dope. Okay. So the way things work, this podcast is different from the first one. So the way things work here is all the conversation is managed through random questions. So I have a list of random questions for you prepared, and they are hopefully all over the place. But the goal here is always to show your personality and show the type of person you are, and show the things that don't always get seen in the work that you do. So, but you do a lot of things, and you show, like, you also do content. So you're one of the ones who is really putting yourself out there. My first question is, where does your creative journey start?
I think that's tricky. I say like for where I am now. I mean, obviously like, people probably give the answer like I've been drawing my whole life. Like I've been creative my whole life. But like as far as what I'm doing now, like I started in college. I think my freshman year, I found out what a zine is. There was a zine fair on my college campus, which I found out later that they don't normally have it on my college campus. So it was kind of just like by chance that they had it that one year. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is this magical book that everyone's making? And this is so cool.
Can you explain what a zine is? Can you explain what a zine is?
Yeah, so I explain a zine as in a zine is whatever you want it to be, but it's basically like a booklet. I think some of the roots go back to like the punk rock era, sort of a way of like, you know, expressing yourself, and you don't need a publisher. It's anything in my mind, that's self-published, that's creative. It could be poetry, it could be writing, it could be photography, it could be, interactive. It could have like QR codes, it's whatever you want it to be, which I think is the beauty of zines, is like you can do whatever you want with them. They're whatever you want it to be.
Nice.
And so I got like cued into that, and I was in South Florida, so there was actually a pretty big like zine scene. Like zine shows throughout the year. There's like zine season where you can like go to all the different shows. So I got really cued into that, and that's when I started my art page, my LM Tweet art page. And so that's sort of how like my business got started. I created my first zine to sell on my website, and like nobody bought one, maybe like 2 of my friends, So that was like my first intro into like doing content sort of stuff, doing YouTube, doing like creative stuff, making videos about the zines and about being creative. So that was like the start, was freshman year of college for sure.
That's dope. Yeah, I think I found out about zines through you, because I had never heard of them before.
I'll tell anybody about zines.
Yeah, but it's like one of those mediums that it's like, once you realize it's a thing, me and my wife have gone to like bookstores, like zine bookstores here in Phoenix, and you just look through it and it's just like it's a lot of random interests that that people are showing. There's comics like where people are drawing. There's people writing like dissertations and things that are like big topics like into zines, and it's like, this should be a bigger thing. Like more people should know about this, because it really is like, it frees you as a creative to like have another medium. So like, yeah, I appreciate you putting me on, because that's like really a really cool thing.
Yeah, and like built into the culture of zine making is like the sharing and the trading.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the times at the zine shows that I would go to, like the other creators, I would just trade with them, like you trade zines, you make like little small ones, like the single page ones, and then you just have a bunch that you give out for free. Like it's a very like community type thing where like you might be sitting next to someone who does like completely different work than you, but like you're connected with that one thing that you're making at like a market, and you can trade stuff, you get to know them. Like in South Florida, there were people that would go to all the zine shows, so like you would see them there, and it was just a really nice way for me to like be outside of the college community, but also find a creative community that was like doing something similar. So I met a lot of people that I still like follow and interact with online through that, even though I don't live in South Florida. And yeah, I love zines. They're awesome. If anybody's creative, I think they should be making zines just for fun. Like they're just fun to make,
Yeah, that's a good point. What's your favorite one you've ever made? Like what was the topic, or what was it about?
I don't know. I did like a series of 3 of them, and they got like more and more experimental like as I went on. Like the first one was just like I found a printer that could print like booklets, and I sent in my designs and I did that. Then the next one, I've always loved collage, like working with magazines and letters and text. And so I sort of like collaged my art in the zines. So they were very handmade. Like every cover had it, what I handmade the covers, I handmade what was inside. And then the third one got like really handmade because I got a Cricut machine.
Nice.
So I was like cutting out letters and like making title pages. So it was more like a book. But yeah, so I liked that series. My brother really liked them too. He always has like one of each. He keeps them with him. So
dang,
yeah, that was dope. Those are probably my favorite.
That Cricut is a life changer. Like I remember when I got my hands on the Cricut, anything. I was out here selling stickers. Like I did like a 500-piece sticker order for somebody just with the printer and a Cricut. Gosh. It was ridiculous. I should have never done it. It was a bad idea. But
I feel like stickers are what people get the Cricut for, but it can do so many other things. Like I never liked it for stickers because I could never get things to line up properly.
Yeah.
But there are people that can, and that's what they use them for. But I like it for like the cutting out of stuff. Like it's almost like it's like a laser cutter without being a laser cutter.
For sure.
And you can do so many cool, fun like collage things with it. So they're so fun.
Yeah, it's dope. One thing that I find really interesting about you is the fact that you are like you're an artist. Like an artist. Like I feel like I know someone who's like,
what does that mean?
It just means that like you do art for a living. Like, I don't know if I do art, but it's in a very like specific way that is tailored towards like branding and then working with clients. But yours is like art for the people. Like you're making stuff for the people. So can you tell me like how that process has been, and like how did you even get started on doing like art in that way?
I, it's interesting that you say that because I think like the internet is like the highlight reel always. So like since the beginning of graduating college, it's always been a struggle to like figure out the balance of like what it is that I want to do, because if you make art to sell it, then that's you're making art to sell it.
Gotcha.
You know?
Okay.
So it becomes almost, for me at least, it became very much like I'm being told to do this thing and create it in a specific way, in a specific style for people to buy and to make prints. And that I don't like being told what to do. I never like doing homework. So I don't like that sort of structure. So then it's sort of been figuring out like almost like how do I have a day job being creative, doing my art full time, but then have my creative side afterwards, and like working that in when you work for yourself is very hard, especially when what you do for a job is creative. It's like you go from being creative and making stuff all day to then now it's my free time. I just want to sit, you know, I don't know what I want to. So it's like that same balance. And I think the past few years has been me trying to figure out how to maintain making the work that I want to make. And for a while there was like, I was still making stuff, you know, I'm making rugs and doing all that stuff, but it didn't feel like my art. And so it's been like over the past year trying to get back to making like what I view as like my personal art, and making time for that has been difficult, but I'm getting back to it. And that's sort of like a priority in this coming year, is to like spend less time working, which brings its own stresses when you're working less, but making more. So it's sort of like this balance of like, I don't think you ever figure it out. Like I follow people who are like career artists that deal with these same troubles no matter what they do, whether they're online or in the gallery space. Like it's always a constant, I think, trying to figure out like, okay, so I do something creative for a job, but also I don't like, you know, making art and selling it. And if I don't like making art and selling it, I have to make money another way. But then if I make money another way, there's no time to make the art that I want to make. So it's just the balance, you know, and constantly trying to figure out like, okay, what am I going to do today? You know?
Yeah.
What am I going to do tomorrow?
Figure out that mix of like, how do I live? how do I
exactly.
make it to the next day?
Yeah,
that's interesting, because I feel the same way. Like I've been freelancing for almost a year, and it's like you end up with these like random like more artistic projects than maybe some of the other work, and you're like, oh, I would love to do that all the time, but it's like that's where the money comes into it. And it's like you might not get paid to be the artist, like and be artistic in that way. You might get paid more to do production work for someone's business, and it's just like that toss back and forth is like hard with your realities. Like you're just like, oh, I love being in this zone, but now I got to be like over here to make money.
I have to go back to work. Ugh.
Yeah. So do you deal with like, how does burnout work for you? Do you feel burnt out all the time, or is it like cycles where you can like, oh, I'm feeling burnt out, so let me turn it down? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm coming out of like a big burnout. Like last year was like my burnout year of working, because I kind of like had almost like, without knowing it, like looking back, I had cut off all creative work for myself, like doing my personal work, and I was just working. I make punch needle kits. They come with everything you need to learn how to punch needle. I make punch needle kits, and I was just doing that because it was going really well, and it is going really well. But like I was just sort of like hammering that and just doing that like full time without realizing like, hey, I'm not really doing anything for me to like help me enjoy what I'm doing. So I really burned myself out. Like I think earlier than I realized it. I think that's how burnout works. You don't realize it until it's like way too late. So I definitely burned myself out of working, and I don't remember who I saw like say this, but they explained burnout as like not necessarily like the creative process necessarily, but it's like with a certain thing. So like I didn't burn out from like necessarily running my business, like I was able to pinpoint it was like packing orders. Packing orders is what I burned out doing. And anything associated with packing orders that would generate more orders that I had to pack, that I had to like, you know, fulfill the orders, keep things stocked, like all of that associated with the packing orders, you know, was like a domino effect. But like packing orders, I was burned out from. So it's like business wise, getting back so that I'm like okay with packing orders again. Cause it's like, just, I don't know. I just did way too much of it all at once during the holidays. And I was like, I need something. I don't know what I need, but I need to stop this and do something else. And then, yeah, so I've never burned out from making art, I don't think, because I've never found myself in a place where I'm like doing it too much. Like I always want to do more of it. So I think that's good. I'd rather burn out with my job than burn out with making art.
For sure.
So,
do you ever think about like having someone else do that stuff, or is that like you're just like I gotta do all pieces of this, or like how does that work for you?
I have thought about that, and I think like there's this idea that you have to constantly make your business bigger and constantly grow and expand. And I'm working in my house. Yeah. So if I want someone to come in, they have to come into this office with me. It's very small, and be packing orders right there. I don't want that. I don't want to deal with that. And if I want to deal with that, I have to have another office space. I don't like leaving my house. So I'm going to have someone else at another space with the overhead. And it's just like, then I'd have to be pushing more to sell more to pay for that. And I think for some people, that's what they want to do. They want to have a big business. They want to grow. They want to have, you know, thousands of followers on Instagram and like kill it, like absolutely kill it. And my thoughts and prayers go out to those people because that takes a special type of person. I'm not that person. You know, I like to be home. I like to make my art, and I want to be able to support my art with my business, not the other way around almost, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, I have thought about it. And everything that I do with the kits is so, like, handmade, which I love. Yeah. That I do enjoy making them, but not 100 in a week, you know? Yeah. 5 or 10 a week, that's nice. It's chill. It's a good thing, you know? I can do that. So it's sort of figuring out, like, what works for me now is different than what was working for me 2 years ago. For sure. It's different. So
I love that. I love that mentality because I feel like I run into a lot of people and they're always just like scale. Scale's always the idea that everybody has to like do more. But you're absolutely right. You have to kind of figure out where's the limit, because otherwise you're going to be chasing that forever. And what do you do when you're standing at the edge of this big situation that you never like actually wanted? So I really applaud like small creative studios, small like that have big impacts. Cause like I would say your impact is huge. Like again, you're doing content. The rug kits that you're making are an experience. Like the packaging's like everything is like dialed in. And I would say that's a big impact for one person to be doing all of these things. So I applaud you for just being able to handle all of that under one roof in that one room. Like punch needling I did it one time and I was just like, I don't know if this is for me. Like this takes so long. Like, so I applaud you. Cause I think I did like,
it's like knitting and crocheting. Like it takes a special person, you know, but when you find, if you are a person who enjoys it, you enjoy it. Like it's your thing, you know? So
that's true. Everyone should try it. Everyone should try it at least once. And then when you're halfway and you're like, I'm good, you move on. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So I love that. I love that's how you feel about it. And I wish more people voiced when they feel that way. I think there was a book that I read and it talked about this guy having a boat and he was a fisherman, and someone came up to him and was like, well, if you get more boats and more employees, then you could make more money and spend more time on the beach chilling. And he's like, I'm already on the beach chilling. Why would I do that?
I'm doing that now. I'm doing that. Why would I
right
stop?
Now.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Why would I work 60 hours a week when right now I work like, 20 to 40 depending on the week, and I have time to like garden and I have time to make the art. Obviously finances, you're making less money.
For sure.
But like I'm fine. I'm good. I have a roof over my head.
Yeah.
You know, I pay my bills. It's good. I don't need a big warehouse pumping out 1,000 kids a day, you know?
Needle them. Everybody, you got needle guns everywhere. Needle
yeah,
them.
like,
yeah.
I don't want to manage people either. Like, I don't want to do that.
I love it.
No.
I like that stance, and I think it should be said more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
next question. This one is,
okay.
What toy did you want that was on a commercial as a kid that you never got?
Oh, I don't think I have a specific. First of all, I love toys.
Okay.
Like today, like I can literally. I got this. I was so excited. It's a Baby Bratz.
Nice.
I had one as a kid, and I saw that they were at Target, and I was like, I need that immediately, and it's right on my desk. I love toys. But as a kid, there wasn't really anything like the as seen on TV, like, you know, the moon shoes or anything. Like, I didn't really. I was like, that looks dangerous. Like, I don't know if I want that.
What?
But my mom never let us have light up shoes. That was the one thing, because we would go to Payless to get shoes, and they always had the light up shoes, and she never let us get them. And I asked her once, and she just thought they looked stupid. So that's why she didn't let us get them, and there was no reason, like, why. She just thought they looked dumb, so she wouldn't let us get them. So that was the one thing, like, as a kid, I wanted light up shoes, and she never let us have them. So they weren't on, I mean, maybe there were commercials, but that was the one thing, like, I would have wanted. But
Dang,
yeah.
that's
Sorry,
amazing. Well, it's funny because I'm going to throw my wife under the bus right now. Because I think they're cool. And I like every time I see them, like, why can't we, like, because with my son, he'll see them and be like, oh, those are really cool. And I'm like, why can't we do it? And she's like, yeah, they're stupid. It's kind of how she feels about it too. And I'm like, okay, I could get with that. I understand what you mean there, but they're just light up. They're fun. Like, you feel like you got like,
they're just shoes.
Yeah, you got like spaceships on your feet. It's how I felt as a kid. Like,
yeah,
let's get out here.
Especially we didn't have the internet, so like anything that like did anything cool, it was like, whoa, what's going on in there? You know?
Yes.
So. Yeah. I always wanted the light up shoes. I think my brother did too, and we just like never were allowed to have them. And I assumed as a kid there was like a reason. Like mom knows everything, and there's a reason why she's saying this. Yeah. So she's saying no, but I have to believe that there's a reason. There was no reason other than that she thought they looked stupid.
That's a reason though. That's the reason. She's like, I'm setting your vibe. I'm setting your vibes for your whole entire life.
Her reason was because I said so. Yeah. That was it.
Beautiful. Yeah, mine was always the moon shoes. I thought they looked dope. Also, remember the blow pins where you would blow like ink? You blow in the pen and then ink would come out.
Yeah.
And it was like,
yes.
I always thought those looked so cool, but my wife said she got some when she was a kid, and she said you would almost pass out trying to blow them because you had to blow so hard. I was like,
they all seem a little like kitschy, I guess. Like they were never meant to last. They weren't really kid proof. No. So it's sort of like, you know, like the spiral toys too, like the drawing pens that would like spiral.
Oh yeah.
Or like the stencils, like those were cool too, but they're like, it's just cheap plastic.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like nothing. They sold us everything. And us as kids ate it up. We were like, we're here. We want that. We don't have any other stimulation. The internet doesn't exist yet. We didn't have anything else, so colorful commercials were like, ooh, what's that? And then you go to the toy store and like, oh my gosh. I was just actually with the Bratz, I was thinking about it because there was like one specific Bratz toy item that I had that got lost at some point, and I've always like, I just had a flashback about it, and I was like going on eBay looking at all the stuff, and I was like realizing that the only way I knew about the new toys was like Black Friday when the like circulars would come out. My mom would let me look through that. And then if I went to the toy store or my friends had them, like if I'd go over to a friend's house and they had a cool new toy, I was like, oh my gosh, what's this? But there was no other way to find out what was at the toy store. Nope.
There was no way. You just had to go. And my parents weren't going to take me to go. We weren't like rich, you know, so it was like very like lock and key on like what we could get. We'd have to save our money if we wanted like a new toy.
For sure.
And only then would we go. Like we weren't just like browsing the toy store, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like, I was thinking about that. Kids nowadays can just buy whatever they want. And I I had no idea what was available. And I was like looking at all these toys that they would have been available when I was a kid. I've never seen this in my life, you know?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Because I feel like I had more contact with toys when Walmarts became bigger. Because you could kind of like, they had their own toy section. So you go through like the Walmart toy section. But that wasn't until like later in life. That wasn't early. So, yeah, I don't know. And yeah, where I lived, we didn't have toy stores. We didn't have like what was it, Toys R Us? We didn't have that.
We had
Jeffrey?
one. We did have one. Yeah.
But you didn't know.
That place was amazing.
Until you got there, you didn't know all that was in there.
I remember the smell.
Really?
There was like at least ours had like a smell to it that was like, oh, we've made it. We're at the toy store, you know?
And you'd and now I understand as an adult, you'd get there and be so overstimulated that like it was impossible to get you out of there. So I don't even know how my parents dealt with like us being in a toy store. But that's the thing that they brought toy stores like Toys R Us back, didn't they? Like recently, I feel like. I know that they had gone out of business for a long time, but I thought that they were bringing them back. So
I would love a Toys R Us.
Hey, you might have to check it out. Is there
around Christmas?
Is there any other toys as an adult that you're just like, oh, I gotta have that?
Not really. I feel like I'm pretty picky actually. Okay. Like, you know, like the pop toys.
Oh yeah.
The Funko Pops. Mm-hmm. I don't like them.
I don't like them either.
But they came out. They had a series of like mystery minis, which is like childhood gambling because you don't know what you're going to get in the box. And those toys were always designed a different way. So they had the different eyes. So I really that's when my toy obsession started, was because they had them at like Michael's. So I'd be going to Michael's and I'd be like, what's this toy over here? I love Finding Dory. Let me just buy a new toy. And that was like my gateway drug into like toys, because I love the mystery minis and like you don't know what you're going to get. And theirs were always designed like the real characters, which I really like because I love kids movies. I love Disney. I love Pixar. Yeah. So like to have the toy of like my favorite little characters was so fun. So that was sort of my way. But they stopped making them, which makes me sad. I'm like, there's so many fun movies that would have fun little mystery toys, but there's not really like a mega toy on my list, you know? Yeah. So
I feel like I don't know. Maybe I should think about that more. I think as adults, we should have toys that were like, that would be cool to have. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of the Funko Pops. I just don't like the look. Like you said, I'd rather it be closer to the real thing if that's what I'm going to buy. But I don't know. I'm more of I don't really be buying stuff now. I went crazy on all these like design books a couple years ago. And my wife was like, you can't buy any more design books. And I'm like,
you're on restriction.
I feel you. I haven't read them. They still unread. Like they still just
they look nice though.
Nice. They're cool. When we have a nice house and a coffee table, I'll switch them out. Like, but I don't really have stuff like that.
Yeah.
But my next question has to do with type. So, in a lot of your pieces, you have this like. You can tell you have a love and an understanding of type. So where did you discover that love for type, and like how do you foster that now?
I think like I live by myself. I have a lot of time to think, so I think about these things. And I was thinking back to like the first time I went on a train. I went with my mom to New York City because my aunt and uncle live in New York City, and she gave me this disposable camera. Again, like pre-internet, pre-phones, pre-everything. She gave me a disposable camera, and like the story is that I had used up the entire camera in the 4-hour train ride to New York City because I was taking pictures of the graffiti.
Ooh.
And I was like, I think as a kid, I was like, wait, these letters look so cool and they're colorful and they're just everywhere. And like, this is the coolest thing ever. So when I came home, I went through like a graffiti phase because I was doing colored pencil at the time. So I was doing like graffitied colored pencil art, and I got into like Banksy and doing like stencils. My dad actually let me remember talking about toys. Remember the little iPod like animals that you could like plug your iPod into and it would like light up. There were like a series of Apple animals there, and I had a penguin, and so I made a stencil of the penguin, and my dad let me spray paint it on the inside of one of our little doors. I was like, "Are you serious? You're gonna?" He's like, "Yeah, whatever. It's still there.
What?
It's still in the house. It's still like the little stencil." So I like went through a serious graffiti phase, and I think that was like the beginning of me realizing that letters weren't just like words on a page. Like they could look really cool, they could be colorful, they could be like images themselves. And I think that was like something clicked. I was like 5, but something like clicked. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then Tumblr, I was like, I didn't know what typography was, but I found out through Pinterest and Tumblr, like typography through the tags, the hashtags. And I would just like pin all the things that I could find of like all the cool letters. Like this is back in like early 2000s, you know, like pinning everything that I could that looked like cool letters. And that was before I even knew that typography was like a thing. I just knew it was a hashtag I could put in and get cool pictures.
Yeah, that's genius.
So,
yeah.
So I think I've always been fascinated with that. I started doing collage as well. Like when I was younger, my mom would take us to the thrift shops, and that was back in the day when you could get like a National Geographic for like 25 cents or like 5 for 25 cents. So I would like get magazine after magazine, tear them up, collage them, you know, tear out the letters that look cool, like Teen Vogue. I was so excited when I got a Teen Vogue because they had the cool letters in them. Like National Geographic was kind of boring, but like Teen Vogue had like the fun little letters, and I would cut them out, and I was collaging like all of my middle school like planners have like collages with words on them. So like from a very early age, I was like very interested in type. I don't know what it is about it. I think it was just like the fact that letters could look cool and that they say something, like you can read it and read the word, but then also like see it and be like, that looks cool, that looks beautiful or whatever. So that's sort of, I think, where it started. And it's just like, then I learned what typography was. Then I learned you could download fonts online.
That was a dangerous.
Dangerous. So that was also very cool. So it's just been kind of like, it's always been there, you know, like the love of words and letters and type and all that stuff. So it started with graffiti, I think.
That's dope. Yeah, because you're now even adding typography into your punch needling, which I think is the coolest mashup on the planet, because like it just to hold some of the shapes of the letters in what you do seems would be so difficult, but you do it and it looks beautiful. And I'm like, I just have such a respect for letters. I just think we take them for granted a lot. A lot of times you're just like, oh, these are just things that we use to say words, and it's like, no, but they can be so much more than that. They can mean so much more.
Say more than what they say.
Yes. So yeah, I've always loved kind of like your approach to lettering, even in some of your earlier posters. Like you can really see your sense of like type, and then that goes into like, you also have like a sense for design. Like even in the way that you lay stuff out, it's like you have an eye for those types of things. Does the design kind of come from that pursuit of type?
I think, because it's sort of like in college, I did take some classes.
Okay.
Where I sort of like learned, I found the zine making. And so like first zine that I did, I had to lay out, and they were like, the manufacturers were like, use InDesign. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but okay, I'll download it because I get it for free from my university.
Oh, nice.
Had no idea what InDesign was.
Yeah.
And I just was like, bleed lines, smart. I was like, I don't know. And they kept being like, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. And I just, figured that out. Sure. And then it was sort of like, again, a snowball of like, then I started to I took another class, and I started using Photoshop, and I was like illustrating things with my trackpad on my laptop. And then I took a class and found out about the pen tool, and I was like, this is so cool. So like, it was just sort of like step by step. And I didn't study design in college. I studied ecosystem science and policy. But I had like an interest in obviously anything creative and design wise. I took one typography class, but it was not a waste of time, but the professor was a little, let's say, lackadaisical. He didn't really care about much, so we didn't really learn anything in that class. But it was a fun 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because all art classes were 3 hours long, and so it was interesting. And then so I started taking more design classes because I was doing the zine making, and I got interested in like print design.
For sure.
So I took like an introduction to print design, and that class, helped me. And then I got into infographics because I got involved with my school's scientific publication as like one of the art makers of like the pages, like make the little graphics and help with the creative titles, again, with the words.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I took the print design class and learned stuff there. So it's sort of just like the design stuff, I think, came in through the interest of like just being creative and the InDesign and like learning print publication. And like, again, I've been interested in magazines, from the thrift store since I was a kid. I've been looking at them since I was a kid. So like learning that, I could take a class that teaches me how to actually make this real.
Yeah.
And then I could make my own zines and go to a zine show and have like my own like laid out zine that I made. Like that's fun. So it sort of was like a side thing, because I would take a class that was outside my major every semester. That's what I like set myself to do. I was like, I'm going to take like just one for me every semester. And so that's where the design classes came in. They were just like my bonus, and they were fun. Like they were never stressful. They were always exciting. I felt like I was learning stuff. Even when I wasn't learning from the class curriculum, I was learning from the professors. So yeah, that's where the design, I think, started creeping in a bit.
I like that. Cause you can definitely see it. You can see that some of that in what you do. And again, just your all around curiosity for learning things and then applying things you can see, which I think as a creative now is so important. Like the days of like, well, I just create and someone else does the talking about it for me. Those days are over. Like you
sell yourself.
You gotta sell it. You gotta go get out here. You gotta figure out how to talk about it, how to make it interesting. Like, what's the storyline gonna be? There's just so much in what you do, and that's what I mean. Like, you do so much as one person. Like, even you make content. You make videos. You make YouTube videos also. So you can see the passion for just like wanting to share and wanting to be in community with others and share that with people. So I think that's really cool. The science part of it, your degree being that is wild. I think you did like. Didn't you do like some ecological stuff recently? You went to like Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell us more about that? I found that fascinating.
Don't get me started.
No,
I have
go
my
ahead.
niche interests. Okay.
Hit us with
I can go off about the Everglades. Okay.
Hit us with the Everglades for a little bit.
So in college, I studied ecosystem science and policy. And you were saying like sort of the like learning things and then applying that. I think a lot of it comes from my science background. Like I feel like when I'm creating stuff, like right now I've been working again with type and the punch needle. Like I feel like even though that year of burnout, I felt like I wasn't making art for myself. I feel like looking back, I was experimenting because I was figuring out like how big can I make letters with the punch needle? What type of punch needle do I need to use? What type of yarn do I need to use in order to make the letters translate the way I want them to? How detailed can I get? How big do I have to go to get the detail I get? And I think that year, even though I wasn't making like personal art, I was making things that were sort of like experiments of like, if I put these letters here and I use this typeface, will it show up? Can you read it the way I want it to read? And like, it was a lot of experimenting. It's like, okay, that didn't work. So let's try something else. So I think the science approach comes in through that. So I started working with a PhD student throughout college. I was like just an assistant, and he was doing herpetological surveying of the Everglades, which is like amphibians and reptiles.
Okay.
Is herpetology.
Okay.
So like, snakes, frogs, alligators, turtles, all that stuff. So he was doing a sampling of that, and I did that throughout college. That was like one of my part-time jobs. So I would go up there was like a research station a few hours from our campus. We'd go up for the weekend. We'd do sampling. I would just help. I get to do all the fun stuff. Like I get to walk around in the, in the water, put on the fun waders and the costume and like walk around and hold all the animals and then put them back. And I didn't have to do any of the statistics.
Dang.
I didn't have to do any of the writing. I just got to go and like play around in the water. I was like, this is the coolest thing and you're going to pay me? Like, this is awesome. So I did that throughout college. And he is like a firstborn overachiever type of.
Nice.
He's awesome. He's very smart, very involved in conservation. Shout out to Hunter, that's his name.
Yeah.
And so he had a project that he had tried to get pushed through basically all throughout his PhD, and for various reasons, like the funding lined up, and then it didn't line up, and then COVID happened, and then he got the funding, but he was like on his last year of his PhD, and this was like a massive project. So he asked me and another person to come down for the summer to basically do the project, do the research. And so that's what that was. I went down from I want to say June through August, and we did like this massive sampling throughout the entire Everglades, which is like this huge ecological system. Like most people, if you hear the Everglades, think of the national park, but the Everglades itself is an eco-region. It's like an entire area from like the middle of Florida, Lake Okeechobee, all the way down. It's like this huge, it's called the River of Grass because it's just this massive ecological area with all these like smaller, little micro ecology places. I don't know the professional word, but there's there's all these different parts of it. There's like the ridge, the slough, there's tree islands, there's the grass, there's like all these different parts of it and all these different unique animals and unique like makeups. And so it was the first like large sampling of the herpetologist. It was focused on the amphibians.
Okay.
The first large sampling of amphibians throughout the Everglades to try to get like sort of a baseline. But the reason why he was doing it was because all the sampling that had been done from like the 90s to now showed a 75% decrease in amphibians. So that's really alarming.
Wow.
In 20 years, that 75% of them have just gone. So that was like the catalyst for like wanting to go out and start to try to figure out what's going on and what's happening. And yeah, so I just got to do the fun part, I just show up to work. We go put out traps. We pick up the traps, We got to fly in a helicopter a few times, which was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just a big fun project. I'm so like thankful that I was asked to do it because it feels like very much a once in a lifetime opportunity. Literally no one's ever done that in the Everglades. Hopefully they'll continue to do it because it needs to be done.
Yeah, 75% drop is, you probably need to monitor
very
that.
Alarming.
So,
especially for like a wet ecosystem, you should have more frogs than like none in some areas.
And it's not touched, right? There's not like people
the difficult part is like Florida is very big on agriculture.
Okay.
So runoff from agriculture is huge. And water management within agriculture is huge. So Lake Okeechobee is a huge water resource that's used for agriculture. And then you have the runoff and like the flow of it coming all the way down through the Everglades. And the Everglades itself is split up into, I think, 5 management areas. So like 5 different entities have to coordinate or not coordinate the management and the sampling and the research. So it was a huge effort to try to get like everybody on the same page to get all the permits. So it makes it difficult to do stuff like this because it's not all managed by one group. You can't just go to one group and be like, hey, can we study? And they go, yes. You have to go to all 5. You have to get permits for all 5. You have to get like help, so it's a huge thing. And there's more and more urban development. If you look on like Google Maps, it's actually kind of shocking, like especially in South Florida, there's like a physical boundary line where they cannot develop. And it's like, there'll be a house and then like Everglades. So they're right next to each other. So you have like this really close relationship. So there are really remote areas that nobody's touched, but it's not like untouched in that way where you have the water has gone through, potentially like farms and agriculture and it's gone, hundreds of miles to get to where it is. So yeah, everything we do has an effect, on everything else.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't even know how, like that. You definitely should
Yeah.
talk more about that in the things that you do. That's really cool. That's something you can lean back on, and talk about. But again, that science mindset. Now that you say that, makes so much sense because you're just testing. You're out here trying to like, okay, that moved a little bit. Let me do this and see if it moves in the other direction, like over and over again. That iteration.
Let's try these colors. Let's try this type. Let's see how big it looks. Let's try how big with the different colors. Like, yeah. And I like that. It's fun.
It's fun. It is fun. Like, that's what I love about the stuff that I do. I'm just like, okay, what will actually work? Like, how do we get to something that actually works? Which a lot of people in their jobs don't have to do. They're just like, I'll throw this out here. If it doesn't work, who cares? So, okay. So this is always my last question for everybody who sits with me. What does creativity mean to you? And this can be like personally, this could be your definition of creativity. What does it mean to you?
I don't know. What does creativity mean to me?
Yeah.
I feel like I would like it to be.
Okay.
Like unchecked making stuff. Okay. Unchecked. Like, no, to me, it should be like you're just doing it because you enjoy it. To me, that's like, if I'm being creative, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. If I'm doing something creative, I'm doing it for fun. I'm doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because I have that like creative itch to see this thing happen, to problem solve, to try and make it possible, whatever is in my head or whatever idea I have, like, and doing it without any other motivations, not to make money, not to share it, maybe those things happen, but like, for me, creativity should be something for me that I'm just doing because I want to do it. And anytime I'm not doing it, I don't feel as creative. If I'm doing it for money or I'm doing it to sell it, I'm doing it to make for content, it feels a lot less creative and more like I'm doing something for somebody else, and it feels like all the other factors of like this won't do well in the algorithm come into play. So for me, creativity is unchecked. It's like you just do whatever you want, no time limits, no like restrictions. There's no failing because you're just trying something out for the first time. If it doesn't work, you just try something else. It's just like an iteration before you get to the final product. So
I love that.
I don't know. I feel like that's my answer.
No, that's
what I would like creativity to be.
That's beautiful because it's like, that's how I feel. I feel like creativity is one of those things where, like, you're right. It's like a muscle. You exercise it, and you have to exercise it the right way, or it'll leave. It'll go somewhere else. If you're doing it for the algorithm or doing it for anybody else, it just doesn't work the same. So in being creative, you have to find your voice, listen to your voice, and then give in to that. And it has to be unchecked, like you said. So I think that's great. Do you find that like you can like control your creativity, or does it like come and go in waves most of the time?
Yeah, I feel like yes and no. Like if I'm working a lot, like during the holidays, I'm super busy. Like the past 2 years I've been like making kits, and it feels almost like the creative energy is like building up, and it's like I just have to make something really quick and I'll be back to work like in a second. Like I just have to go do something. So it's sort of like that where it's like I just can't not be making stuff, whatever it is, For
sure.
So yeah, I do feel like it's something that it's just like an impulse, Like I can talk about the Everglades for hours, but I couldn't really talk about like making art for hours. I feel like it's just something that I do. It's like instinctual in that way. It's just like I'm going to make stuff. Like, I'm going to make stuff. My thought when I was going to college was like, I could study art or I could go in this STEM direction. I'm going to make art anyways. I'm not going to get to go in the Everglades for 3 months and sample, amphibians if I don't get a degree related to that, So I think that, that's sort of how it is for me. I just I just do it,
Yeah, it's just a part of you. It's who you are. I sometimes will find myself, I'm like, got so many actually like business things to do, and I'll be like, I get that hit of creativity, and I'm just like, but I could go make this, And my wife's always like, you have 9 million of those. You need to like organize yourself. So I'm still working on that. But I feel that. It's just like, that's just in me to like when it hits, I kind of have to be like, oh, I got to go. I got to
put everything down.
I got to do
Take a lunch break.
Yeah.
Go do it. Yeah. Then come back. Yeah.
And maybe I should do those like quick stints of like, maybe I draw it out or maybe I write it out or like maybe that will be more of enough to kind of feel that, like I'm getting it out. But yeah, it's I feel you on that. It's tough sometimes. You're just like, I would rather be doing this and not packing orders.
Yeah. And I find like having it set up so that I can just do that. Like if I'm working or I have a rug that I want to make, if I set up the frame and have it like just in the other room, I can just do that. I could just take an hour, work on it and come back, you know? So if you set, that was a piece of advice I got probably from like a YouTube video like years ago, but like set things up so you can just sit down and pick up where you left off. Like if you need to keep your space clean, obviously like you got to keep your space clean, but like if you sew, have your sewing machine out. Because if you have to take it out, you're going to, you know, not do it because that's a barrier to like start. But if you like drawing, have your colored pencils out all the time. Have your notebook out all the time instead of putting it away where you don't see it. You're like, ugh, then I got to take it out. I got to clean it up. Just leave it. Like, I think part of the thing for punch needle versus painting is like, I can just pick it up. I can just literally pick it up, do it, and then put it back down and go back to what I was doing. And I think that's fun too because it's like, I can pick it up in stints and I don't have to sit down and it's not this whole production, you know? So that's my piece of advice.
Thank you.
For people who
Thank you for
deal with that. Is like just have everything ready to go at any moment. You could draw, you could paint, you could do Illustrator, you could do whatever you want, you know. Have it ready to go.
Just have it always booted. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. I would like to thank you for spending time with me. This has been great. Is there anything?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you are working on right now and you want people to know about?
You can subscribe to my YouTube and also follow me on Instagram for cute cat pictures coming up.
Nice. Cat pictures. You're selling this episode for me. People love this. But I really do appreciate it. Yeah, you're like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I do this. But I do appreciate you being here and spending time with me. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Creative Questions. Like, comment, or subscribe to allow us to keep making more episodes. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.